Hi, everyone. This is Dawn Takacs, and I'm coming to you from downtown Pittsburgh today. This podcast is the point where we talk about everything about wedding planning in the city of Pittsburgh. Unedited, unscripted, just raw conversations with brides, pros, and people in the industry to help you in your wedding planning journey. And today, I have a dear friend with me. He's been working with me off and on through the years. He is a DJ of 20 plus years, and I wanted to pick his brain a little bit about booking a DJ for your wedding, what you need to know, what you need to be aware of. And I want to welcome my good friend Jason Hinkel to the show. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Dawn. It's great to be on here with you today.
Fabulous. So I know that for many years you were doing the side gig DJing, and so you've got 20 years under your belt, but you were working other positions, full-time jobs, and then DJing on the side. And recently you've taken a dive into full-time DJing, correct?
Yeah, the DJ gigs, they just keep coming. I mean, weddings aren't stopping, parties aren't stopping, so it's been fabulous, getting phone calls and emails left and right. So I said, let's dive in and let's do it all the way.
Yeah, and your experience speaks for itself, and I want to dive into that a little bit because I know that you've seen everything, and I see a lot of questions in the Pittsburgh Brides group, and the point of this podcast is to answer some of those questions. And I want to start with kind of like one of the obvious ones. Why choose a professional DJ over a playlist on Spotify or something like that?
I mean, a playlist, obviously, you can include what you're looking for there, but there's no changes to it. With the DJ, he's kind of the heartbeat of your wedding, your reception, and he or she's making the night run smoothly, adjusting for any changes that need to happen. Life happens. I mean, things will happen that need to be addressed during that reception. You can throw in last minute requests. You can change this, change that. It's just a lot more that you can do with the DJ versus just creating your own, playlist.
I get that. And to kind of tap on that a little bit further, I think the DJ is almost the conductor of the event,
Absolutely.
not just the MC, but you are making sure that the timeline is flowing and that you have the proper pronunciation of their last name, Takacs, not
Absolutely.
Takacs, right?
Definitely. Yeah, like I said, that you're kind of the heartbeat. I mean, you're making sure everything runs. Keep it going. You don't want any lulls, any gags. You don't want to miss anything. You want to make sure that you include the cake cutting, the first dance, all of those special events.
Yeah, good answer. And so if brides were looking to book a DJ, are there important questions that they should present to them before making that decision and booking them?
Yeah, definitely. You're looking for somebody that has experience. I mean, obviously everybody starts somewhere, but you want somebody that's been through this, that knows what to look for, that knows how to help you navigate your day and make sure that everything's the way you want it to happen. You want to make sure that the DJ is insured. That's one that I get quite often. Do you have insurance? Or the event coordinator will kind of follow up with some of those questions as well to make sure that you're insured for the venue. Some of the other ones, they'll ask, have you been to our venue before? Do you know the layout? Do you know what you're looking for when you come in there? And obviously there's a ton of venues and we see new ones every week, but we have a lot of repeats. So it's nice when you have that experience and you're walking in to a place that you've been before. You know exactly where you're going, you know how to run the night and make it perfect for the bride and groom.
And I would also imagine that because there are so many beautiful venues in Pittsburgh and the surrounding geographic area, because I know that you do DJing in Maryland and West Virginia and Ohio, and you go where the client is if needed, that every venue, the sound system and the needs for the sound is going to be a little different.
That's very true. The acoustics can be very different from venue to venue. Sometimes you have fire halls, you could have a barn, you can have just various different venues, and each one presents its own challenges, but they're all very navigable and they make it for a fun night. And so it's very, very fun to work in each of those environments with the bride and groom and make sure that their night is super special.
And they only have one day, right?
That's right.
There's not a do-over here. You got to nail it right the first time.
There's no mulligan.
There's no mulligan. I like that. And so next question I have for you, and this gets asked a lot in the group, why are DJs so expensive?
Yeah, that's a very good question. There's a lot of behind the scenes that people don't always realize. Everybody thinks it's just the 5 or 6 hours that you're there for the wedding, but there's a lot of planning that goes into it. There's phone calls, emails, maybe in-person meets with the bride and groom to discuss the timelines, the different song choices, the do's and don'ts, what you're really looking for, what you really don't want to do. And there's a lot of planning into it, and then putting together that perfect playlist where you have the bride and groom's recommendations or their must-haves, and sometimes they'll leave it a little more up to you, and you make sure that you hit what they're looking for as far as the mood or genres that they're looking for. So like I said, there's a lot of planning and behind the scenes work that goes into it that's not always realized.
And I can appreciate that because with our brands and Emmy photo booth, I can book a photo booth for a wedding and I can have 30 to 50 emails on one wedding.
Definitely.
And I don't think the consumer sees it from that side. They're like, oh, we're booked, we're good, we'll go. They don't realize, and it's not just the emails with them, it's the emails with the wedding planner, the emails with the venue, the logistics and all of that that goes into it. So it's a lot more than I think people give us credit for. And it's your entire day, right? I know when we start loading the truck for any event, we're loading in the morning. We're pulling out around noon, sometimes a little earlier than that. And then we're not getting home till 1 o'clock in the morning, even though maybe we're only performing for 4 hours. Is it the same for
Right.
you?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, you're loading early in the morning to make sure that you're on the road by 11, 12, maybe 1 o'clock at the latest, depending on the wedding time. And of course, the distance that you're traveling to get to that wedding or event. But yeah, I mean, those 4 or 5, 6 hour performance times turn into 12, 13, 14-hour days because of the loading, the prep, the drive, the setup, and of course the return back home afterwards. So yeah, they can be very, very long days.
So that's a great explanation. And I think that the brides will appreciate that we don't just come in, pop everything on the table and go. It's so much more complicated than
Right.
that, right? And I'm going to read the next side. Okay, tell me something. Okay, I've got the next question. Tell me something DJs do, maybe that no one really realizes that they do, that it's like, it's something that you're constantly, it's part of your grind when you're at an event, or, we went into the email category, but when you're actually at an event and you're doing the grind, tell me something that you do that people maybe don't even realize or appreciate that you do.
Well, you're coordinating with the photographer, the videographer, the event planner or coordinator for that day. You're constant communication with all of those parties to make sure that everybody's at the right place at the right time. You want to make sure the photographer has the first dance pictures, the cake cutting pictures, all those special moments. And so it's a constant back and forth between you and all those other vendors to make sure the bride and groom have no worries, there's no hiccups, everything turns out just the way that they want.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to like you're kind of the leader of the band, the conductor, and making sure that everybody's on cue and on point and where they need to be at time. I know many times they offer us a meal and I'm like, I don't have time to eat, right?
Right.
That happens to you,
gotta-
right? You're eating while you're
Oh,
DJing
absolutely.
because you don't have
Yep.
time.
You get a couple of bites in and then you're moving on to the next thing.
Right. And you're like, oh, wow, it's still warm. This is good.
Right.
The timing's good. And lately, I'm seeing a lot of bad things in the industry. So this is a very important question as well. Tell me what kind of red flags brides should look out for. Maybe when they're shopping for a DJ and they found them and they like them, they're all excited to book them, but to protect themselves, to protect their budget. What are some of the things that they can do to kind of lock that in and know that they're making a solid investment?
Right. Definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can look for. You want to make sure that your DJ is willing to give you a contract. I know some are just like, yeah, I'll be there, and then they don't show up. So you want to make sure that you have a contract and it's written down. You want to make sure that they have experience. Check their references, check their social medias. Make sure that it's what you're looking for. It's going to fit your vibe. I have an ever evolving list of references. People will say, hey, have you done any weddings recently? Well, yeah, I did so and so here. Give them a call, text them, see what they thought. So that's a big one for me. Are those references? Word of mouth is the biggest piece. Follow up to see if that person came through for what you were expecting.
I would agree with you. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to make sure that they have insurance as well. That's another big one. If they're not insured, then it could turn out disastrous.
If they're not insured, they're not a business, in my opinion, because here's the deal. Like, I know some venues will ask for the bride and groom to get insurance, and that's a liability type insurance in case somebody gets hurt, they drink too much, they hurt someone on the way home, that sort of thing. But the COI, in addition, for the vendors, serves the same purpose. And every vendor that's going into a wedding should have a COI or a certificate of insurance. And the sad thing is, it doesn't really cost that much. It's minimal, $50 to $100 a month to maintain, and you can get a specific rider for the venue upon request. But without it, it's basically like you're just the wild, wild west. And anything can happen. You could have somebody trip over wires as they're walking up to the DJ booth, fall down, hit their head, crack their head open, they're in the hospital, and all of a sudden everybody's getting sued. And I know that some people are dismissive of this too. I've even had some planners that have tried to join the site, and they're like, oh, well, I don't have insurance. I'm like, you've been in business for 30 years and you don't have insurance? Like, to me, that's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah,
Like, you're
it's
just
mind-boggling.
gambling. Yeah. And it's such a minimal cost too. So that's the part that's just baffling, is like, why wouldn't you? It's like, why would you? Why wouldn't you have insurance, right? It's so affordable. And these
Right.
days, it's even come down even more. There's even some places that you can get, just particularly for a day if you're just starting out. Maybe you don't need the policy for the year, but you can get the rider just for that day, for that wedding, right? Crazy. So
Yep.
good answer.
That's
Thank
how
you.
I started,
appreciate
actually.
that.
Like you pointed out that.
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
That's how I
Please
started.
continue.
When I was doing this as a part-time gig, it was day to day. I might not have a wedding for 3 months, so I didn't want to do a full year policy, but we would do event by event. And now that it's become a full-time endeavor, it's absolutely, like you said, it's no question. You have to do it.
Absolutely. And the reference point that you made about list of references from recent weddings, recent couples, so critically important, because I'm going to tell you, the Knot, Wedding Wire, all these places that have like the stamp of approval, like those reviews, for one, can be outdated. They can be from years ago. Two, they only ask for like 5 reviews so that you can win best of. Like 5 reviews. There's 52 weeks in a year. To me, doesn't signify that you should be best of any category. And they can also be falsified. I mean, you can send it to all your friends and say, hey, go write me a review. There's no criteria on any of those platforms that you have to verify that it was actually a wedding, that you're actually a bride and groom, that, this is the date, and that a contract or anything. It can be anyone. So
Right.
I'm not saying that people are disingenuous, but I'm saying the platform itself leads itself to people to be
That vulnerability.
disingenuous. Yeah.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
it's a false sense of security for the brides and the grooms when they see that. They see that and they're like, oh, they're the best of. Look at all these reviews. And they really just don't get it, that they need to dig a little deeper, that it's their responsibility to do their due diligence. And I will continue to be an advocate for, give me the emails of your last 3 weddings. If you give me the emails of your last 3 weddings or the phone number of your last 3 weddings, I'm going to get everything that I need to know to make a decision whether I want to book you or not. Because either you were a hero or...
Definitely.
And one phone call or an email will let them know that. To go on to another question for you. How much
Okay.
input should the couples have in the music? You talked about this a little bit, but I just want you to, because I know there's some brides that I had one bride I remember communicating with, and she was like, I want to write the playlist. I want everything, and I guess that's fine if you're maybe musically inclined or you're in a band or something and music is a really big part of who you are. But talk to me about that. How do you handle that? How amicable are you? Or do you let them take the ball and roll with it? What do you do?
Yeah, so I have some that, like you said, they want to take control of the entire thing and give you 75 songs that they want to hear during the reception. And I sit down with them and I say, well, listen, we might not be able to include all of these, but we're going to do our best to get a good mix of what you want. We're going to make the vibe happen, whether it's, top 40 or country or classic rock or whatever your genre or vibe that you're looking for, or a mixture of all of it. We put that together and make that happen. But then you have some that are on the opposite ends of the spectrum that say, I just want to hear these two songs. You take the reins after that. And we go with it. You just kind of feel the crowd out at that point and see what they want to dance to and what they're liking for that night. Of course, there's always the classics, your Cupid Shuffle and that sort of thing. But yeah, like I said, you run into all spectrums of how involved the bride and groom want to be. And from my standpoint, I want you to give me a good idea of what you like and what you don't like. If there's certain artists or songs that you say absolutely not, then we cut them out, that they don't make the cut. They're not in the list. But if there's songs that you have to have, then absolutely 100% they are in there. And like I said, if you give me 30 or 40, then we do our best to work everything in there and make it happen for you.
And I think that's a great platform because let's just call a spade a spade. Like the bride has a full day. The couples have a full day of things. And
exactly.
It's going to go by so quick and they're going to be so engaged with everyone that I highly doubt they're going to remember most of the songs that are played, except the important ones.
That's very
right?
true. Those special moments, their first dance and those sort of things, they are going to remember those. But if they give you 35 songs and you play 32 of them, they're not going to remember that you missed 2 or 3. As long as they're having fun, their guests are having fun, the energy is there. That's all that matters. They're going to remember the day as a whole as being one of the best days of their life.
So that brings me to another question. How do you keep the dance floor a hopping and engaged when you have guests as young as 7 years old and as old as 75 years old? And how do you find that?
Yeah, a lot of times you start with trying to focus on some of those younger guests because they're not going to be there most of the night. They're obviously not drinking the alcohol. They usually have a bedtime, so they're going to be leaving a little earlier. So you play some of your your top 40, Taylor Swift, those sort of things. Even some of the older generation like those songs because they're upbeat. So you get all of them out there, but then you also cater to that older generation as well. Play some of your Brick House and some of the 70s disco hits and that sort of thing. And it's just a good mix to get started. And then as the night progresses, you're left with usually your bride and groom, your wedding party, the younger generation. And it gets a little more clubby dance music at that point, and that's when the alcohol's flowing and they're really having a good time. But that way you're able to hit all aspects, all genres, all age groups, and you just keep the night flowing.
And that's why you hire a professional DJ over a playlist because a good DJ can read the room. I love when I'm working an event and I'm walking in and I'm checking in, whether it's a wedding or a corporate event. And I know you've worked a lot of corporate events with us as well. And I love when I walk the room and I can see this and they're jamming. Whether they're sitting down and having a drink or they're on the dance floor and they're jamming. And I'm like, that DJ is doing a good job. Whether I like the music that they're playing or not, I know that he's watching the audience, he or she, and that they're reading the room and they're doing a really good job of it.
And you spend your entire night reading that room. But like you said, they could be standing at the bar, but if they're moving and grooving while they're sipping their drink, or they're sitting at the chair talking to Aunt Betty or somebody, as long as they're moving, their foot's tapping, they're having a good time, that's what matters.
And bam, that's the right answer on that one. And so I'm going to ask your opinion on this, and this is one of my little pet peeves. I think at a wedding, the focus should always 100% be on the couple. And, every opportunity that you have a mic in your hand, it should be all that energy and accolades should be going towards the couple. And so what is your opinion on how a DJ should behave on the mic while at a wedding? Like, is it, hi, my name is Jason. If you need anything, let me know. And then when you sign off at the end of the night, or are you constantly on the mic? Tell me a little bit about your philosophy on that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there are some DJs that could go overboard with it, that almost like to hear themselves talk and are constantly on the mic, and it's more about them than it is the couple. And I feel like that gets a little out of hand, a little too crazy. But then there's some that don't want to say anything at all, and I think that's too far the opposite direction. Okay. So my approach is, it's all about the bride and groom. You're making those announcements. You're introducing them into the reception. You're introducing them, for their first dance, when they cut their cake. And each chance that you get, make sure that you shine the light on them. When you're playing a song, a slow song, hey, we're going to slow things down. The bride and groom want to have another slow dance. Anybody else want to join them? Go out and dance. Call them by their names. Like, keep reiterating that it is their day. And like you said, towards the end of the night when you're signing off, it's, hey, let's congratulate the bride and groom, Mr. and Mrs. You know, this was their day. I want to thank them for having me. You know, I'm glad to be a part of it. And like you said, just make sure it's about them. They can't hear their names enough, I feel like.
Especially Mr. and Mrs., whatever the last name is.
Absolutely. Yep. Because
They
that
love
really
that part.
resonates with them. Hey, I'm finally married. We made it. We're here.
We made it. Yep, we made it. We did it. And I love that because I do sometimes see DJs and they have like, you know, their signs up and branding and tables and they're talking about themselves the entire night. And if you're doing a pro bono event, like you're doing something that's a fundraiser, I get that. But when somebody's paid you hard-earned money to be the MC and the conductor and to, you know, the DJ that's elevating the party at the event, I don't think it's appropriate.
Right.
And that's just my opinion. It's a little bit in bad taste.
I agree with it.
Right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Like
Don't
you said,
steal their thunder.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was saying don't steal the bride and groom's thunder. Keep that spotlight on them, like you said, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's a very good way to put it. It's their day. The spotlight is right there. Don't take it away from them.
Bam. Great. Okay. Jason, what is the key element to a successful wedding ceremony and reception, in your opinion, with your experience?
The key element is, like I said, just communication. That has to happen with all the vendors. Make sure everybody's where they need to be. I mean, it's something that we touched on a little bit ago, but you can't talk about it enough. Because you don't want to be running up to the bride and groom and saying, let's do this, let's do that, or what do you want to do here, what's next? You already have that timeline. You know what's supposed to happen. You've laid these plans out weeks or months in advance, and it's just coordination behind the scenes where they know where to go next. You tell them, hey, we're doing this next, this, and you just make sure that, like I said, it runs smoothly. You don't want to be asking questions last minute. You want all of those answers laid out beforehand.
100% about communication in every form and fashion, and not just the day of, but that email thread. And I'm going to go back to that too, because I know a lot of our young couples like to text and DM when they're booking, but the best way that you can make sure that your wedding is flawless is to keep everything on an email thread with every vendor that you're connecting with and that you're booking, because it does two things. It gives you something to refer back to, and it gives them something to refer back to, because I'm booking all these weddings and I have all these different things going on, and I don't want to go to 5 different platforms and say, oh, what time did she say that she wanted to cut the cake? I want it all in one place. It's easiest for me, and it's all on one thread, and it also gives you something to refer back to if something should go wrong. Let's say the DJ said, you know, well, you said the start time was 7 o'clock, you know, and he doesn't show up until, you know, 15 minutes till 7, then you have that all on that thread, and it's not something that can be deleted or manipulated from a DM, right? Do you prefer that
Absolutely.
as well?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, it keeps all of your vendors in the same loop. That way there's no miscommunication on one vendor thinks one thing and another thinks a second thing. Everybody's right there together. You have the same timeline, the same guidelines. And that way, like I said, it runs smoothly. And there's no way to, like you said, manipulate it. It's all right there.
Or omit it or lose it. I don't know how many text messages I can lose, right? Because my phone blows up sometimes. And I'm like, oh, you're way down here. And then you find
That's very
it.
true.
So, yeah. So if a couple was, I'm sorry, did you want to elaborate
And
on
like
that?
you said, the different platforms.
Yeah.
And like you said, the different platforms, whether it's email, texting, messenger, there's so many different forms of communication. Where did you speak to this person at? That gets a little hectic. So that's why that one email chain is just so nice.
And they have one wedding and we have multiples, and we're trying to keep everything organized. And I think that's
Absolutely.
a perspective that if they understood that, they would understand why it's important to keep it all in one thread, because every email that we title, we have the wedding date, the couple's name at the top. So we know we can just search our email and pull it up and it's right. No, hun, the start time is this time. Like, we have the information right there. We don't have to go on a wild hunt through DMing messages or text messages. And another thing, like, Like when you meet somebody online, like DMing or texting is fine. But when you're ready to like book, everything should go to email. Unequivocally, everything should go to email. It's the healthiest way to have that digital trail of the conversation for everyone involved. That way there's no miscommunications. If a couple's talking to a couple different DJs and they're overwhelmed by choices, what would your advice be to them to narrow the field?
Yeah, I think experience is number one. But once you move beyond that, you're looking at something that's going to fit in your budget. There's a lot of price ranges out there, and you don't want to go. I guess you don't want to go too cheap because cheap isn't always the best, but at the same time, nobody can afford, or not everyone can afford, a $3,000 to $4,000 DJ. So you want to find something that's in your price range, but also hits those other points of experience, communication. Like I said, make sure that there is professionalism there. You want that communication, whether it's email or phone call, to be very professional. You don't want to be talked down to or told, no, we're not doing it your way, we're doing it this way. When really it's your day as the bride and groom. It's all about you. So they should be willing to accommodate whatever you're looking for or whatever you want to make happen.
And again, I'm seeing a lot of this lately too. And I'm seeing a lot of brides being ghosted by someone that they booked. And for any professional to ghost someone is unfathomable to me. Like, I just can't even believe that someone would behave that way. Like, even if you're busy, you're working that day, maybe you have a full-time job and they messaged you and you can't get back to them. Like, get back to them it takes 30 seconds. Like, I'm sorry, I'm busy today. I can't get back to you. Can we talk tomorrow? And schedule that time to talk. And I think that's another important reason to take it to email, because there's not that urgency to respond right now, but you see it's in your inbox early in the morning or late at night, and you can send that message back to them. Again, it's coming back to communication. Everything that we're talking about, I think communication is the key to a successful wedding, and that communication has to be full circle. And any professional that can't send a text message or a quick email to somebody that's looking for an answer on something, maybe somebody that you might want to reconsider for your wedding before you would book them. I think it's reasonable. Like, I know that we work weddings on the weekends, but I think it's reasonable. Like, if they've messaged you on Friday, to get back to them on Monday, right? Is that unreasonable?
Yeah, absolutely. No, not at all. And like you said, it takes 30 seconds. Sometimes you might not be able to get the full answer of what they're looking for, but respond and say, hey, I'm busy with an event this weekend. I'll follow back up on Monday. I mean, just let them know that they're heard and that you're thinking about it, and you will get that answer for them.
Yep. Perfect. All right. I've got a couple little, I'm reading over my questions. Is there anything on a contract that brides should be aware of? Like, I know sometimes we plan the perfect day, but it doesn't work out perfectly for us. Weather's a culprit, traffic's a culprit. Tell me, is there anything that they should be looking for on their contract as far as something they may want to talk to with their DJ about before signing?
Yeah, I mean, different clauses that you're looking for there are, is your deposit refundable? Is change of venue? Anything like that where, I mean, venues make mistakes as well, and sometimes they get double booked. So there's cases where committed to a DJ or photographer or somebody, and you're telling them it's going to be on this day at this at this venue, and you come back and say, oh, I got bumped because somebody else had already booked it. There was an error there. So you can kind of look for those clauses and to see if there's anything like any additional fees or what they're willing to do to work with you in those aspects, if there is something that has to change. Obviously, we're out of the pandemic, but that was a big one that we ran into. 2020, 2021. A lot of things got moved and changed around there because of that. And who knows when things will happen in the future? Like you said, things that are beyond our control when it comes to weather. There could be floods. There could be, who knows? But just kind of look for those clauses. And if you're unsure of something, don't hesitate to ask before you sign that. Make sure that you understand what you're getting yourself into, what your options are, and make sure that it's what you are exactly looking for.
I think another one, just to note, is timeline is really important, because the timeline can be fluid. It can be affected by weather or traffic, like I mentioned. What happens then if the bride has booked you from 5 to 10, but the venue has agreed to let them go to 11 because everyone got there an hour late? Does the DJ book you for overtime, or is the DJ copacetic and say, you know what, I know you got here late? Like, those are things that you might want to make sure that you have eyes on and that you have an understanding on. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, that's a good point there. like you said, things can be very fluid, and sometimes you do get pushed back a half hour or so, or even an hour. And when it's not the fault of, like you said, the bride or the groom, if it's traffic or weather related or something, yeah, I think as a vendor, you could be very accommodating with that. And you don't want to be that bad guy and say, oh, you booked me till 10, I'm done. You want to make sure that it goes well for them, give them the extra half hour, the extra hour. And on the contrary, I mean, if it is just they do want to book you for overtime, then absolutely, then you're all about it. But there are those things that are beyond anyone's control, and I think the DJ should be accommodating. Photographer, whoever the vendor is, needs to be able to work around that.
I think it's an unexpected, expected element of being in the business to be a little bit fluid and ability to adapt to different situations because there are so many things, beyond your control. I'm going to do another podcast about, planning the perfect day. Everything on paper looks good. You've got the binder. Everything's good. You signed off. You've paid everyone. You're sitting back. You're ready to relax. Things can and will go wrong because there's so many things that are out of your control. The traffic being one of them, weather being one of them, human behavior being one of them too. And a lot of people don't take that into account. Dad forgot the keys. He's got to go back. Somebody missed their plane and they're not here yet. Like there are things that you just don't have control over. And so no matter how perfect you plan that day, things can and will go wrong. And if you understand that and you own it and you know it and you just say, I'm rolling no matter what. I'm rolling. Nothing's going to ruin my day. Nothing's going to rain on my parade. And I think that's a really healthy attitude, but we're going to do a podcast on that as well. And so wrapping it up here, you mentioned overtime and tipping. Tell me about that because that's a question that gets asked a lot. Like not a specific dollar amount. If you want to say dollar amount, you can, but tell me a little bit about that. Do the couples tip you day of? Do they tip you when they book you? Are they looking at a percentage? Is it a C note? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and it's one that comes up a lot. A lot of people aren't necessarily, I want to say experts, because like you said, it typically only happens once. You're only getting married once. So it's not something that they plan week after week or month after month. And it is a common practice to tip DJs and photographers, videographers. Don't necessarily have a percentage or like you said, a dollar amount, but it's mainly the thought that counts. And sometimes it'll happen at the beginning of the event. They'll give it to the coordinator to hand out to each vendor. Other times it's at the very end of the night, which I think is the best practice just because it comes off as, we really enjoyed you. You did a great job. Here's a little tip. I feel like if it's ahead of time, then it's not earned at that point, if you know what I mean. Like you didn't really do the work to get it yet. You showed up and you're here, so here you go. Here's your tip. Yeah, there was the behind the scenes work and everything, but your performance day is what speaks volumes. And when you get that tip at the end of the night, it feels great. It feels that you were appreciated. Everybody danced. Everybody had a blast. They're going to remember it for years to come. And it's well earned. And like I said, it feels great at that point.
And it's affirmation, like you said. And even if they write the cards and they're like, one's to Jason, one's to the photographer or the videographer, and they put the bill, a 50 or 100 or 200 or whatever they put in there, and they hold it to the end of the night and give it to you. Like you said, you still feel, I think, that you earn it as opposed to early in the night to me, when they write a card and they do like a thank you card, even if the thank you card says, it was so great working with you, we love working with you, and whether there's money in it or not, I love the card. The card,
Absolutely.
the time that they took to sit down and write those cards shows that they value you as a professional, and it means so much. I love, sometimes we get them in the mail from brides after the event, and it's like, oh, that's so sweet. They took time to send us a card. So that being said, Jason, is there anything that I missed that you think that we should... Oh, I know what I wanted to touch on. My apologies. So I know that you've worked a lot of multicultural weddings, right? You've done Indian, Hispanic, like all across the board. So tell me, navigating those waters, because I know that this is something that sometimes the brides that fall into those categories are a little apprehensive. So please tell me a little bit about that before we close this out.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, that's not something that we have happen every day, but it's something that we enjoy because it's something that it's unique. We get to learn something new. like you said, I have done some, Latin weddings. I've done some Indian weddings, and they're so much fun because there's different cultural aspects that you learn, different songs and artists that you might not necessarily listen to on your own. But then once you start working with them, you say, who do you like? Who do you want to hear? How do you want to put this together? And you start working with that. It turns into an awesome experience. Like I said, it's so much fun, so much learning, and just having that experience is nice walking into the next one because you can say, yeah, I've done this one, I've done that one, and we've done events, in Pittsburgh. You and I have worked events together with,
Yeah, lots.
different colleges that are, very cultural, multicultural. So it's a blast. Because, like I said, it's not songs that you hear on the radio every day. It's not stuff that we would necessarily go to the store and buy, but it's something new that you learn and have fun with.
Yeah, and on that note, I'm going to say, just come right out and say that we do a lot of events for Carnegie Mellon University, their grad department, and we can have 500 to 1,000 students, and they fly in from all over the world, all countries, all ethnicities, and they are on the dance floor. Jason had them out there just jamming it up, dancing and playing music that I've never heard before. And I'm like, I'm very impressed with you. And the clients were as well. Great feedback on that one. But it is, and it gives you a gratification in what you do that's non-monetary, right? It gives you that okay, I'm in my zone. I know my field. I'm mastering my field. And that's a good feeling. We all need that to continue on our path in the industry that we choose to be on.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's like a gratification to yourself. I've accomplished this. I want to move on to the next thing, the next bigger, better thing. And I think that was the different cultural weddings. Just learning, like I said, all those different aspects, different things that they like to do versus, you know, a traditional American wedding. And it's such a unique experience.
Yeah, well, we have the cookie table. That's all I want to say.
Right?
I don't know if they have the cookie table or not. But that being said, so if someone is interested in contacting you for their wedding, tell us how we can get a hold of you, Jason.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Facebook, DJ Jason Hinkel. You can also shoot me an email, jason.hinkel3@gmail.com. Those are the easiest ways to find me. Shoot me a message or an email, and I'll be glad to work with you.
You can also find him on pittsburghbrides.com. He's one of our featured DJs, and I have no need to really vet Jason because he's been working with me since 2014, I want to say. 2012?
13, 14, somewhere in there. Yeah.
13, 14.
A few years.
And a few years. We're family at this point. You're part of the elite family. And so I would tell anyone you are in good hands if you book Jason for your wedding. He will over deliver what your expectations are. And I want to thank you, Jason, so much for being here today. I've enjoyed answering all these questions that the brides have, especially I think the monetary one is really important because as the economy is strained and people are struggling and they look at numbers, they really need to get a perspective on the time involved in doing a wedding is beyond the 4 or 5 hours that you're there. So thank you for answering that question for them. And until we party again, and I know we will, my best to baby Jax and Amber.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care, Jason. Bye.
Yep. It was great chatting with you, Dawn. I appreciate your time. Bye.
My pleasure.